a recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. The town is recording this, CTSB is recording this, the Berkshire Edge is recording, and other members of the public may be. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Start with approval of minutes. Do we want to do one set at a time or all three at once?
I have a correction for one of them.
Okay, so why don't we do one at a time?
Motion to approve October 26, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion by Ed, second by Bill. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, let me just get this big thing off the screen so I can see everyone. Roll call vote. Lee.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous.
Motion to approve November 23rd, 2020 with one correction. Do you want me to read the correction first?
Please. Yes.
On page 3, and I emailed this to Amy, so she's got it in writing. Page 3, public hearings, coastal cultivators. Under speaking in favor or opposition, number 6, Peter Pusilowski. It says Peter Pusilowski stated that the board has already spoken on the number of marijuana facilities when they turned down the proposition to limit the number. It should be the town meeting has already spoken.
Okay.
Motion to approve is amended.
I'll second to approve as amended.
I have a motion by Ed, a second by Bill. Any other discussion? Lee?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And aye. It's unanimous.
I didn't see December 7th. Did they get mailed out?
No, I don't think so. I didn't
No,
get
they
it.
never did. We got an email saying that they would be mailed out. You're correct. And I don't think we ever got them. So we will not obviously do December 7th. Select board's announcements or statements. Lee, you picked the wrong time to take it.
Actually, yes, I do have one note. I was wondering, I noticed that the bus stop that's on St. James Place, right on the side of the street near the pantry, People's
Yes.
Pantry. I always, see quite a few people lined up for the bus stop there, and I'm just wondering what the, is there a realistic option of getting a bench there, and how would we go about that? Because I know that there are bus shelters planned for Main Street, so I'm just requesting a bench for that particular bus stop.
Yeah, we definitely can do that. And I think some of the lines you see are for the People's Pantry, so they also could use.
Yeah, we put,
them too.
we put chairs out there, but quite a few people line up there for the bus stop for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, you're right.
it'd be nice
Yeah.
to do.
Mark, you'll come back to us with that?
Will do.
Thank you.
Great. Kate?
Yeah, I just I wanted to thank Ned and our health inspector. On Friday, I had learned that there were going to be a vaccine clinic specifically for the immigrant and status unknown population in Berkshire County, and for people who work in food and farms. And I was able to get the information to him, and he sent that email out immediately to all of the restaurants in town, and they filled all 200 slots almost immediately. So with his help, we were able to get a lot of very vulnerable population in our community vaccinated. So I just want to really thank him, because what he did was really commendable.
That's great.
Yeah.
Bill?
No, nothing.
Ed?
Nothing.
And I have nothing. Town manager's report.
Thanks, Steve. I have a few updates tonight and a few last minute add-ons as well. But going in order on the agenda, the Houstonic Waterworks, I don't have anything new to report tonight, so I'll circle back at the next meeting. Fairgrounds, I was asked several weeks ago to reach out to the fairgrounds to discuss a potential town purchase, and I wanted to just report tonight that despite our attempts, we have been unsuccessful. So the owners and at least one board member are aware that we'd like to engage in a conversation. So at this point, we're just standing by waiting to get a response.
So I guess I have a question. I'm a bit concerned that there hasn't, despite repeated attempts by the town to engage in a conversation, that it appears that the fairgrounds board is not willing to even speak to the town. Is that correct?
We have not been able to get the board to agree to a meeting. That's correct.
Okay.
I did
So-
send another email request this afternoon.
Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose, well, what do we do now? Because if they don't seem to be willing to speak to us, and this has been repeated attempts, I'm just concerned that, what's it going to take to get them to even talk to the board? Because there is, interest. This is a potential community development possibility, opportunity for us. And the fact that we can't even get a meeting is concerning. And, I'm just hoping that whether it's public pressure or, to have this nonprofit board, be willing to talk to the town, and, it's seemingly that, we've tried and tried again. So, what do we do now if they're not willing to talk? Because obviously they were willing to make a deal with a potential racetrack, but they're not willing to speak to the town. So is it public pressure at this point, or,
Can I answer that, Lee? Because I've been doing this a while. You're right. It is public pressure. And let me, as politely as I can, say this. It's disrespectful for the board and for the owners to not meet with the town manager and the assistant town manager, even if they're not interested in selling to us for whatever reason. But an hour of their time should be the least that they provide to a town that they own a substantial piece of land. So
Yeah.
I think that's public pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that they're being that disrespectful is disconcerting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would call for, the public to take a look at the fairgrounds website and to look at who are on the board, and note that it's a nonprofit. It's not paying any taxes to the town. What have they contributed to this town since they've, formed this nonprofit, which I was on I was one of the many that helped out, clear out the weeds on Arbor Day. So, I'm just concerned that they're not even willing to talk to the town, and we have a good faith opportunity to make this a legal entity for the community. So, I'll just make a plea for, the public to take a look at who's on the board of the fairgrounds in Great Barrington, go on the website, know that's a nonprofit, and question, what have they brought to the town? And, hopefully we'll try to get a meeting and we can move this forward.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they don't, if they're not interested in selling to us for whatever reason, we can't force it. Well, there's one legal way we can, but I don't think we're talking about that. But at least to sit down and talk to us is just the right thing to do.
Yeah. So, just for anyone that's on the call, their web address is gbfg.org. So that's the Great Barrington Fairgrounds, gbfg.org. So I urge the community in Great Barrington to take a look at who the board members are, and to exert some public pressure and try to get them at least to have a conversation with the town in good faith.
Yep. Ed. We did that already. I'm sorry. This was under the fairgrounds. Do you have anything else to add, Mark, on the fairgrounds?
No, nothing other than I will continue to do my best to connect with them, and I'll plan to provide an update at our next meeting.
Terrific. Thank you.
Next on my list is Railroad Street and our plans for the upcoming outdoor dining season. And in preparation for that season, which is coming quickly, I just wanted to share a few updates, and I wanted to also thank the Chamber. I believe they reached out to the retail and restaurant community late last week to let them know that we were having this conversation, or at least an update would be provided tonight. And the plans to date are as follows. We plan to reopen Railroad Street to outdoor dining beginning Friday and Saturday nights this spring. I don't have a firm date yet, but as soon as we do, I'll plan to announce that through a press release and also publicly at one of these meetings. And in order to create a more cafe-like experience, the look and feel of an outdoor cafe rather than a construction scene, We'll be purchasing several planters with lattice. Those planters will be set on casters so that they're easy to set up and take down every week. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to partner with Monument Mountain Regional High School and their greenhouse program to work with the students to plant them and maintain them this summer. I did reach out to Dr. Dillon last week, and he seemed excited and interested in that partnership. So I'll report back on that soon as well. Festive lighting, we've already ordered. We intend to install lights up both sides of Railroad Street that will be used for outdoor dining on Friday and Saturday nights. Those strands will be installed by town staff. So we're moving in the right direction there. And then finally, our Berkshire Busk program, which we did an in-depth presentation on at our last meeting, is still moving forward. I expect music will begin probably late June, but will definitely be in place for all of July and August, the real summer months here. And we expect to have various performing artists on the streets for 10 weeks. So,
Any questions or comments?
The Chamber of Commerce has been involved, and they've talked to the retailers and things like that. And are there any concerns there?
I did ask them to reach out to the retailers and restaurants last week so that they could participate tonight and express concerns, support. So I'm hopeful that.
Yeah, now's the time to do it. If anybody wants to speak, just raise your hand through the Zoom link. So we have a couple people want to speak. First, Karen Allen, go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Well, I have voiced some concerns both last spring and summer, and also as I heard that this was going to happen again this year, because it has been quite difficult for the retailers. I know it's very advantageous for the restaurants, and I know people seem to very much enjoy it. And I have nothing but a desire to support the restaurants and to support, making it into this sort of festive, wonderful thing. But I'm very concerned about how difficult it was for us. I have to say, and I could provide proof if anybody needs it, but as of the time Railroad Street is closed down, which was 4:00 for most of last year, we have not one person walk into our store. Not one. People come to eat. They don't come to shop. And the 4 to 6 time slot for most of the retail stores, and I can, really speak mostly for mine, but I can speak for others because last year, Church Street, which was right next door to us, they would just close at 4. They just threw up their hands and just gave up. We actually sat there twiddling our thumbs from 4 to 6 just to see what would happen, to see if anybody ever walked into the store trying to make it work. We'd open our door. We'd, do whatever we could do to entice people in, but they're there to eat. They're there meeting friends. They're there gathering with families. They really have no interest in walking into a store and shopping. However, in the past, without the Railroad Street being closed, that had been quite a productive time period for us from 4 to 6 on Friday and Saturday. So, last year it was quite traumatic, particularly because we had just come out of a period where we were closed. We had to be closed for 3.5 months when we very carefully opened. We're only open 3 days a week. Then we expanded to 4. And right around the time we expanded back into our full schedule was when the closures started. And I have to say, it's, we've lost maybe 4 or 5 stores this year, a couple of them, basically due to these closures, I believe. And I just, I'm looking for better communication for one. Nobody ever came to us last year and asked how we felt about it. We were never asked. no one ever came to ask for feedback when it was over. No one ever seemed interested in knowing how this had been for us. And this year again, I mean, only through rumor did I hear that this was going to happen again. So I feel like there's some sort of lack of communication between the retailers and between the town, and that decisions are being made which are potentially and were actually damaging to us last year, and without really having a conversation about it. I think we really want to be a part of the conversation. So I'm very happy to be. I mean, I've written emails and everybody's always responded to my emails. But I feel like there's something missing. Something is not, we're not being allowed to really explain how this affects us. And I think we're very much, from the other retailers I've talked to, we're looking for a compromise. We don't want to not have the closure of the streets and the restaurants. I think it's been a very positive thing for the town, and certainly through this very difficult time we've all been going through. But we feel like the 4 o'clock thing is very, very tough for us. And having been there on the Friday and Saturday nights, no one shows up to eat at 4 o'clock or at 4:30 or at 5 o'clock. And most of the restaurants, traditionally, I've been on the street with a store for 16 years. Generally, people don't eat until 6 o'clock or 6:30. I mean, maybe if you have little kids, you do, but it's really unnecessary to close the street down that early, as far as I'm concerned. And I think a lot of the other retailers feel the same way.
Karen, one question mark. We changed it to 5 o'clock at the end, right? Karen?
We actually changed it to 5 o'clock within a few weeks of beginning. We did realize that we didn't need a full 2 hours, but we do need adequate time to remove vehicles that are left parked on the street, and we need adequate time for restaurants to be able to set up.
Well, here's another communication thing: is we didn't know that. I mean, we never knew. I don't ever think I saw the street not closing until 5. I think there was a point at which it seemed to us that it wasn't closing at 4. It seemed like maybe it was drifting more towards 4:30. Nobody ever said that was happening. We just had to kind of grok it. We were just like, oh, they're not forcing the cars off the street at exactly 4. But I don't remember ever the street not closing until 5. There was a period of time where it seemed to start to close at, say, 4:30 or whatever. I think that there are a lot of issues, and I'm sure you've been looking at some of the danger issues. I mean, people turn up onto Railroad Street, people who are not familiar with the town and not familiar with this closure and what we're doing there. They turn up there kind of startled. I mean, I've seen their eyes. They're like, what's going on? And they're forced over into this one lane, and they feel like, well, maybe they shouldn't be here. And they tend to drive too fast up that lane. And I know there's been several servers from Bizen who have come very close to being hit. I don't know what one can do about that. But I think that lane of traffic, they're amidst people dining and people crossing the street to serve people. It's very dangerous.
Thank you, Karen. We will work on some of your concerns, and someone will be in touch with you, I guarantee.
Well, can I make a request that the street not close until 5:30? That would be the preference of the retailers that I've spoken to, and that includes maybe 4 or 5 retailers besides myself.
We won't make that decision tonight until Mark looks into it, looks at the ramifications, but we will bring that up at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Eric Bruin.
Unmute. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thank you, Mark. As the owner of Soko, the opening, what you did with the cafe style for the street was It was great in many, many ways. It just felt festive and alive, something to look forward to during a tough time. You know, in terms of the timing, I think that a little bit later it would be fine, in part because also probably in the summer, you know, everything closed early because of the pandemic, the lack of indoor dining. And so we closed an hour early than we normally do last year. And I think that things will get pushed out again. So I'm all for being a good neighbor to Karen and the other retailers in terms of that accommodation. This is just my personal opinion. I haven't spoken with other restaurants. And I will say that the safety issue is Karen's, Karen's accurate. I don't know what one can do. I saw startled faces near accidents, the intersection, and it's a little confusing for people. So anything you do to improve that would make sense. But 100% for the initiative you all took, and the sense of leaning into the wind of a tough time and then continuing to go forward. The spirit was there. There are a couple of wrinkles on the implementation, and you're taking a look at it as good, solid managers would do. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Richard Stanley.
Okay. So my general feeling starts with, I think it was an incredible idea. And in general, retail benefits when people are on the street, period. The idea of making Great Barrington a hub for outdoor dining, I think, I don't know that it started out that way. I certainly didn't plan it when I closed the parking lot at the Barrington House. But the exuberance of people participating was, I guess, similar to when I opened the triplex. Nobody's ever thanked me for anything since the first year that the triplex opened. And apparently it filled a need. I don't think anybody was out to thank me or compliment me about anything other than filling a need in the community. Well, it turns out when the outdoor dining at the Barrington House opened, all of a sudden people started thanking me for doing that. So if you want a measure of what the general public feels about the idea of outdoor dining, certainly at the Barrington House. And in talking with my various tenants, as you know, I have a building on Railroad Street that has, 1, 2 restaurants and 4 other retailers. They were very pleased that there were more people walking by and not just driving by. So that's kind of my take on it. All right. One thing that Karen said that's absolutely true, and I'll echo exactly what Eric said. I was concerned day one with the single traffic. I understand the technicalities of having to keep it and why we weren't able to make Elm Street 2-way, which would have really answered the problem. So I'm going to make us 2 suggestions on dealing with that. One, we need a lot of signage right at the head end of Railroad Street before you make the turn. Maybe another version of that crosswalk sign that deals with people going northbound on Main Street. I don't know if that's practical or not, but just a thought. But the more significant one, and as you guys know, I'm down in Mexico enduring this 75-degree weather, but they have a thing they call topes, also known in the US as speed bumps. Those should be put out. You just can't go fast over a speed bump. It will maintain traffic. In fact, you see it all over Mexico instead of stop signs. So I think it's probably an effective and well-needed tool to calm the traffic. Probably one at the head end and maybe one or two as you go up the street. I think after you go to the top, you certainly don't need it. Anyhow, that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Anyone else? So this will be on the next agenda. I think it's overwhelmingly positive, and we knew there were some tweaks that had to be made, and they're in the planning stages. Mark, continue.
Thanks, Steve. I do want to just mention that we are well aware that we could make some improvements to safety there, and that's why we've hired engineers. We're trying to identify some temporary crosswalks. We're trying to clearly identify areas where pedestrians can cross, so it's not such a free-for-all this summer. And signage is also on our minds. So hopefully I'll have some more information by the next meeting. Just a few last-minute add-on updates for the board and for the public. We were notified last week that the roundabout project for the state-owned intersection of Route 7, 23, and 41 in front of the police department will begin soon. We expect the work will span over 2 construction seasons, and it will include safety upgrades, crosswalks, sidewalks, tree plantings, and moving utilities underground. And we'll see preliminary work starting as early as this coming Wednesday. So we'll have a press release drafted and sent out through all of our traditional media outlets and on our social media platforms within a day or so. And the last update I wanted to provide is that on the other end of town, the former Brown Bridge, now the Red Bridge on Main Street and State Road, or where those two intersect, we did hear today that DOT is planning for a June completion of that project. So that's really good news. I hope that's accurate, and I'll update the board at our next meeting if anything changes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Putting the utilities underground at the police station at the Rotary is, I hadn't heard that. Is that DOT doing that, or are we doing that?
That portion we are responsible for. The rest of the project is a state project.
Right. Thank you.
Richard, you have your hand up, or did I just not lower it?
No, I thought, maybe I was hoping that the Rotary project was dead. It's a project in search of a problem.
Yeah, it's not our project, it's a state project, Richard.
No, I sadly, I understand that.
I know you do.
Is there any way we can put pressure on our state elected officials to put this on hold?
Well, many of us are not necessarily against the project.
Oh, okay. But I guess my readings are not up to date. So I guess I will attempt.
Well, I'm not saying everyone. Not
Right.
100%.
Well, is it the sense of the board that the board agrees that this is a major positive addition for our town?
That's not on the agenda for this evening to discuss.
Would you
I
mind?
like when you take leadership roles, Richard.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thanks. Okay, anything else, Mark?
That's all I have. Thanks, Steve.
Wait, sorry, very quickly, with the
No, of
putting the utilities underground, Ed made me think of it because he is the fiber guy. Is there fiber down that far, or can that be part of utilities going underground, extending? I don't know. That's probably a different subject, but I know it's on Main Street. I don't know how far it is on Main Street. We don't need to discuss. It just
no,
popped
Mark-
into my head. It felt like sharing.
See if it's doable and useful.
Yeah.
Fiber goes down to the police station and further.
Oh, it does. So great. So then if that's a utility, then it's going underground as well,
Yes.
because that's how that works. Great.
Thanks, Kate. Mark, anything else?
That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, licenses and permits. Wyandotte Country Club annual renewal of seasonal all alcoholic liquor license. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous approval. New business, select board to recommend the last zoning citizen petition to the planning board for a public hearing. Do I have a motion to recommend?
We don't have a choice on this, right? We
Right,
just
exactly.
motion to recommend.
Yes.
Okay, second.
Any discussion? This is,
Why do we do this if we don't have a choice?
it's required for us to do this.
It's like bowing to the queen to show respect.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, roll call, Lee.
Aye.
Kate,
Yeah, aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I, and it's unanimous. And before you ask, I don't know what happens if we all voted no. The whole world would be upset with us. 40 Grove Street, transfer of deed. Who's got, Chris or Mark
Chris, you want to take this one?
or Bill?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Pursuant to town meeting, the town has this property at 40 Grove Street. Pursuant to town meeting, it will be transferred to the Housing Trust for affordable housing purposes. So it's just, I think this is just a motion for the select board to approve and sign the deed. And then the trust will also sign the deed.
Yes, we're meeting tomorrow night. We'll sign the deed. We have an RFP that's close to ready to go out.
Do I have a motion?
To do that, to approve the deed.
Do I have a second?
Sure, second.
So I have a motion by Ed, a second by Bill to approve the transfer of the deed. Any discussion? This is also a formality. The town meeting has approved this. So Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous. Local Rapid Recovery Grant.
Sure, I'll start. Hi, everybody. Chris speaking. So we applied to the state's, to Mass DHCD's Downtown Initiative Program, and we received a grant of technical assistance. And Steve, could you go ahead and promote Laura Brennan to a speaking role?
Absolutely.
As you do that, I'll just explain the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative Program was providing these local rapid recovery grants, recognizing that downtowns have taken a severe hit from this COVID health emergency and related closures and quarantines, of course, and lack of foot traffic. So we applied to the state for this grant of technical assistance, number one, to help us understand the business conditions that are there in the downtown, and to come up with solutions with businesses, enterprises, establishments in the downtown to overcome some of those challenges both now and in the foreseeable future. So we have been matched with a technical assistance provider, that is Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. And Laura here, joining me tonight from BRPC, can explain a little bit briefly about the program and the survey that we've just sent out. Laura?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Laura Brennan from Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. We are undertaking about a 6-month process that will begin with the diagnostic phase, including data collection. We'll be looking at a number of factors that either are available through primary sources like US Census or through the town hall, clerk's office, or by just simply doing data collection ourselves through visits to the downtown. The survey that went out recently, and we're going to continue to push that out because it does close on April 12th, is looking for input from both for-profit and nonprofit managers. Excuse me. And all of that information will be sent into DHCD. They'll turn around a report to us by mid-May, which we'll present to the community. And at that time, we'll be looking at a short list of proposed projects that will be being built up over the diagnostic phase timeframe, and also soliciting ideas from members of the community for other project ideas. All of these are meant to be fairly I shouldn't say easily achievable, but fairly quickly achievable projects, because it's meant to be something that as soon as this planning grant is complete, we would be able to apply to a range of funding sources for implementation. So these are all things that would improve downtown experiences for visitors, whether that be for shopping or dining or for other purposes. How can we get people to come to downtown more easily, stay longer, spend more, all of those things that you're really aiming for through a project like this. So after we go through and finish that diagnostic phase, we'll go into a plan draft phase where we look at these projects, do some assessing as far as how many of them are achievable, which are most likely to have the largest impact. And towards the end of the summer, we would be wrapping up with a final draft of the plan, which we will again present to the community.
One of the reasons this is exciting to me, not only are we going to be developing local projects, quick fix solutions, I hope, that set a good foundation for the future. One of the things that I've been trying to wrap my head around and gather the resources to do through my office, through the Economic Development Committee, et cetera, was to better understand just what we had in the downtown in terms of the number of businesses, the number of employees, what sectors of the economy people were in, who supported whom in terms of buying products or services from another, how this downtown ecosystem worked and interacted, and this diagnostic phase will help us do that. So the data collection phase is something that we've wanted to do for a while, and this gives us the resources to do that. So it's very important, we'll say again, for folks in the downtown core, if you have a business, a location in the downtown core, and that's roughly from, say, St. James Place to about Rossiter Street. This is a downtown initiative program. Nothing against anybody else who has suffered through these difficult times, but this is the downtown initiative program, and this program focuses on that downtown core. So if you're located there, please see the survey on our social media account. The chamber sent it out, or I believe hopefully will send it out this week. It went out through the cultural district accounts as well, and we'll keep pushing it until the survey's closed. Then we'll, as I said, be gathering some project ideas together. We have the ability through this program to bring in subject matter experts from around the state, whether they be in retail consulting, transportation, parking management, wayfinding and signage. Not massive amounts of time, but enough to inform our decisions, take the data that we've gathered and inform our decisions going forward. So yeah, we're looking forward to doing this. As Laura said, it's a quick project and pretty intense. First step, fill in the survey, please.
Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is absolutely exciting. So good job all around, everyone. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Chris. One thing I just, I've always wondered about is I know when Main Street reconstruction happened, the placing of benches took place. And, often I see the benches and they're not used. A lot of them aren't. Maybe there's one facing the road, but then it's facing, a parked car. And then there's one facing the sidewalk. And, it just seems a bit, there might be opportunity to relook at where the placement of benches have taken place, and if there's more opportunity to create like a pocket park or something that invites a few people to engage and space each other. Looking at Main Street, there's a place in front of the well, and there's a there's a couple places that the benches are actually facing each other, but aside from that, I don't see anyone really using the benches. And we have these great benches, and I just feel they're scattered, and there's probably a better use of them. So my question is, can we move the benches that are placed? Can we create, more interaction of these benches? Is there room for a pocket park? Just not a big pocket park, but just that there's more engagement. Just think that the way the benches are now, I think we could probably make better use of them. So
So Lee, what you're describing is a great example of one of the projects that could end up on our final list. It's relatively low cost. It can be accomplished fairly quickly. It's a good opportunity to put more consideration into the process and really have some positive effect with what I think would amount to fairly minimal effort. So thank you for that first idea to go on our list.
Super. I'll be one of the first on the benches.
Richard Stanley, you have something to say quickly?
Okay, one is a question and the other is a request. So the question is, can any of this money be used to on private property? Because I believe
This is
Mark-
technical assistance. These are technical assistance funds at the moment. It is possible that implementation projects could be on private property, but we don't know where that funding would come from.
Okay,
The funds we have currently are strictly for labor. So for our technical assistance to identify and explore and really investigate these projects from a planning standpoint. After that is complete, then we would be looking at funding sources for implementation.
So just to follow up on that, obviously you don't want to ask questions that you can't fulfill. So if, it sounded like in some sense it's relatively open-ended. What can we do to help? Is there a caveat, a star or something that says, don't give us any ideas that would happen on private property?
No, I think the team between BRPC and the town will identify projects, and some may be able to be done through the town, others may not be, but maybe we can help make connections and put resources together.
Yeah, the appropriate funding sources for some projects may not be municipal funds. It may be that we identify a project, it's on private property, and the funding sources are elsewhere, but it still becomes a priority for the community. I would add, though, that we're prioritizing things, and I'm not sure what you have in mind, but we would be prioritizing things for our final list that are achievable in a relatively short term.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Well, one of the things, for instance, that I talked to Mark about, because I had read somewhere out east that a pizza restaurant chatted with their state representative and ended up getting money for heaters for their fall. And I don't have the details, but it sounded like it was on private property and the money was being funded by the, some state fund to deal with the pandemic. And Mark indicated that that's not on private property, whatever monies were available last year.
Well, we'll consider anything and try to identify the resources and partners to make things happen, Richard.
Okay.
First phase, I hope you and your tenants fill in the survey.
Please can you email me the survey so I make sure it gets distributed to all of my people?
Thank you, will do.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. It's very exciting, Lee. Lee is correct. Moving ahead, the Elderly Tax Deferral Safety Net Pilot Program.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So, should I start?
Please.
Yeah, in order to do this fairly quickly, because there's so much to cover, I've written out my remarks. And first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to start the discussion in Great Barrington about an elderly tax deferral safety net pilot program. This is especially relevant during these uncertain times. All of us are facing challenges, so why would the Select Board consider a pilot program focused on the elderly? Well, it's one of the few ways that without having to spend any money and with minimal staff time, we can aid the people who have helped make this town what it is today. Key reasons include the following 5 points. 1, seniors are the ones who purchased their homes back 20, 30, 40 or more years ago. But now, due to retirement, they're caught in a crunch between fixed incomes and rising property assessments and taxes. The influx of big city home buyers adds new pressures. If seniors can't afford property taxes and have to sell their homes, they'll be competing with others of all ages for more affordable homes or for rentals. Secondly, there's such a need. According to the chair of the Council on Aging, the senior center staff frequently hears that many seniors are struggling financially. One example comes from a friend who told me by the time that she was in town hall waiting to pay her taxes, and the woman in front of her was having trouble. And she said, I'm just going to have to pay this by credit card. I can't write a check. I don't have the funds. But the clerk said, oh, but that's going to be a lot of credit card, interest. And also the town has a surcharge. But the woman said she had no other choice. When my friend told me this story, she said it made her feel so bad, but there was nothing she felt she could do about it. Thirdly, seniors are most at risk from COVID in the recent times, but always from life-threatening illnesses, which disproportionately affect older people. That's just a fact of life. However, it's really not just about the seniors. Caregiving responsibilities and financial stress have a spillover impact on their families and other caregivers. So on the upside, there's also a ripple effect positively to help caregivers and their families. For example, a middle-aged friend told me that she and her husband, who were otherwise managing, were now being financially stressed because in addition to their own taxes, they're helping her ailing mother pay her property taxes so that the mother can age in place in her own home and not have to go to a facility. Fourth point, this is a tried and true program. It's set up by state statute many decades ago, and it was set for people 65 years and older. And more than 100 towns in Massachusetts have adopted this framework, most for the 65 qualifying age, but some have gone down as low as 60, and others have raised it as high as 70. Fifth, the state statute requires payment on sale of the home or death of the homeowner, which statistically is much more likely to happen to somebody who's 65 and older. So the town is much more likely to get full payment plus interest sooner by making the program available for older people. And that's what the state statute requires, although they give some flexibility on the actual age. The associate assessor in Newton said that of a total of 469 deferred taxes that have been repaid to the town with interest, the average lifespan of the full cycle has been less than 6 years, actually 5.86 years to be exact. So it's not necessarily something that, except in a few exceptions, that would be a long-term cycle to come for the money to come back to the town. So that's why the deferral doesn't count as an expense. It doesn't require raising taxes on anyone. In a deferral program, the town is not reducing anyone's taxes or giving them any funds. The town gets all taxes due. It's just paid later with interest. And the repayment is secured by the first lien on the deed. So that's really serious. They're going to get the money one way or the other. To be clear, the elder tax deferral safety net is different from the exemption programs that Great Barrington already has, and rightly so, for low-income seniors. Exemption programs are limited to only low-income residents, and they do reduce the overall revenues to the town. Now, if Great Barrington would start, let's say, a 5-year trial pilot program, many postponed tax payments could be even repaid within that time cycle, based on what I learned from Newton and other assessors. None of my research showed that towns that have been having to raise taxes or cut future deferrals or other programs due to a safety net program. And here in Great Barrington, we're in an especially strong position thanks to the wisdom of our town manager and select board and finance committee. At the recent budget hearings, we continued our healthy trend of a high proportion of free cash compared to the total budget. According to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, when I looked on their website, they said that for this fiscal year, free cash comprised 18% of the Great Barrington budget and was among the largest percentages in the entire state. So this puts us in a very good position and would be even less likely than other towns that have much less free cash but still haven't had any problems due to the deferred tax payments. Now, towns do have discretion on how much interest they charge. Many seek to get just the equivalent of what they would earn on free cash when it's invested normally elsewhere. Others want to be sure to help people as much as possible and have lowered their interest rate to less than 1%. Newton sets their interest rate according to the federal discount rate and is currently charging 0.25%. Other towns seek to break even with all expenses as well as interest at around 2%. And those that want to restrict the program and basically not offer it to very much can go as high as what the state statute, which was set decades ago when interest rates were higher, and the state set it as a maximum of 8%. But that's quite a bit out of date now, as we all know, if any of us have a savings account. Many towns expand far beyond the low $20,000 annual income level originally set by the state. Data from 2017 that was compiled by research at Boston College shows many towns set a moderate income qualifying level from between $40,000 to $70,000. When Newton raised their eligible income level from $60,000, which it was for many years, to $86,000, they expected a big increase in applications because that would obviously cover many more people who could now qualify. But that didn't happen. Seniors don't really want to put a lien on their homes unless they're in a crisis. Middle-income families do have emergencies such as debilitating illness, accidents, death, divorce, job loss, business bankruptcy, and other crises, which can result in major financial setbacks even though they normally may have enough income to get by. That's when the safety net is like an insurance policy. It's something you hope that you'll never have to use, but you're glad to know that it's there just in case. So it provides peace of mind, even to seniors and their families who don't think they'll need it now, but they know that, well, if there's ever something that I couldn't imagine right now, when that happens, at least I could get through and get a deferral on my taxes for that year. It is a year-by-year deferral, by the way. It's not a long-term thing. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from towns that have an extensive experience running successful programs. For example, the town of Sudbury has had the elderly tax deferral program for almost 30 years. They started in 1993 based on the state statute, and in 2002 they expanded eligibility. And recently I spoke with Sudbury's director of assessing. She's headed the department for about 5 years, but before that, for many years, was associate assessor. She said they get 20 to 30 applications per year for elderly tax deferral. This is in a town almost 3 times the size of Great Barrington. They have close to 20,000 people. Proportionally, that might mean 7 to 10 applications per year here. Many deferral applications in Sudbury are from the same people who apply for the statutory senior exemptions. So the director of assessing said there's overlap and there's not that much extra administrative work. They have a total of 3 people in their assessor's office for a town of 20,000, and they don't require any additional staffing for tax deferrals. When I asked what works well in Sudbury, she noted that it was very helpful that seniors can decide on a year-to-year basis, and they can decide whether they need to defer all or part of their property taxes. They can defer 1 year, for example, if there's a major illness, and then they can resume paying the following years. The statute only requires full repayment when the property is sold or the owner dies. Despite lowering the Sudbury eligibility age to 60, they're the ones who are on the low end to qualify, the number of deferrals doesn't burden the town and has never required raising taxes for unexpected expenses. Sudbury, in many ways, could serve as a model for Great Barrington. They did a lot of research over the years, and they've made numerous improvements. And also, the Sudbury Director of Assessing very kindly offered to respond to future questions from Great Barrington officials. And similar help was offered by the Associate Assessor in Newton, both on his own behalf, and he said that he's sure that the Director of Assessing there would also be glad to help. I can provide the town manager with the relevant information from these places. Coming to an end very shortly, the elderly tax deferral safety programs have been recommended by the Massachusetts Council on Aging, by the Governor's Council to Address Aging in Massachusetts, and by the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College that completed an in-depth report a few years ago, which I can also provide to the town manager. The Center for Retirement Research told me about a statewide elderly tax deferral initiative. And there's currently a state Senate bill that would create a pilot program for a new state revolving fund to reimburse towns with elderly tax deferral safety net programs. So if the select board can start the process now, and in June, the town meeting approves the pilot program, we would be ready to qualify for as soon as the state revolving fund is established. So tonight, I'm just asking the select board to consider taking the next steps to look into a program with a long-standing track record in more than 100 Massachusetts towns and also in 24 states. Based on my research and outreach to towns with successful programs, I can provide town staff with more detailed information and resources to help expedite the process. I hope you'll consider moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. Mark, would it be fair to say that the next step would be an executive summary from your administration, probably to the public, the night of the public hearing, so that the Finance Committee and Select Board are both together? Does that make sense?
Does the board feel like you'll be ready to take action on it on the 30th?
That was my next question. It's the cart before the horse. Will you be ready to do an executive summary? If you're not ready, then doesn't matter with the board. Is that too close?
It's a quick turnaround time because we're going to have the packet issued in.
So let's put that on a future agenda, and we'll invite the Finance Committee to that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, my suggestion tonight would be to have this topic reviewed by the Finance Committee and also by staff so that we can fully understand the revenue impacts and also have a little time to reach out to communities like Sudbury and have conversations with our colleagues there.
Is the board good with that?
I have a number of questions I'd sent to Vivian, and thank you, Vivian. That was a great presentation. Can I send those to you, Mark?
Absolutely. My only concern at this point, while I fully support the concept, is that the timeline is quite aggressive for an annual town meeting approval this year. But let's see what we can do. I don't want to derail this. That's not my intention. I just want to make sure that we fully understand what we're recommending before we come back to the Finance Committee.
Absolutely, that's important. Vivian, you had something briefly to say, or?
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I agree that budget public hearing would be difficult to gather everything together. But I do hope that in April I can do a lot more to help. And with the finance committee, your idea of inviting them to a future meeting in April, I can get a lot more information to the town manager, and then it's up to him and staff to summarize it for you. And I guess to get on the warrant, you'd have to decide by the 26th. Is that correct?
Mark?
Of April, 26th of April.
The warrant will be in final format after a legal review. So we would have to have language drafted a few weeks before that.
Okay.
So that's why I'm concerned about the timeline.
Yeah.
But
We'll work on the best we can.
Thank you.
That's anyone else from the board?
Thank you very much, Vivian. That was very good.
Carol Deal, do you have something to say quickly? Just unmute yourself, Carol.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Carol Deal, 224 Grove Street, Housatonic. This is absolutely critical for me, and the timing is critical for me because I totally lost income this year. And I live and work in my home, so replacing it would be nearly impossible. And but I wanted to point out something. This is a safety net for long-term residents like me, but it also affects the entire community because it would reduce turnover in real estate, which raises real estate prices, drives up prices, and makes it challenging for younger residents to stay here as well. So the whole idea of, yes, it's great to help me with the need I have, but also imagine that you would be cutting down on turnover in real estate, which would benefit the entire community and keep the community more stable and neighborhoods intact.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Board, any other questions? Seeing none. Local elections. We'll promote Jen. She's promoted. I think Mark did. Jen, you want to lead us off? Or?
Sure. So Mark asked me to kind of give you an update about the early voting and changing of local election dates. Last week they passed Chapter 5 of the Acts of 2021, now allowing early vote by mail for elections after March 30th. And it also allows select boards to postpone their local election to a later date, but on or before August 1st of 2021. As you can see in my executive summary, I'm recommending that you keep the local election as is, and I'm not recommending that we have in-person early voting, because I feel that the early voting by mail is, that kind of covers all the ground, and I don't have the staffing to have somebody do in-person early voting. So we wanted to just bring it back because I know at one point we discussed this several weeks back. And that we would bring it to you if anything changed with legislation. And so it just did last week, so we're just bringing it back to you.
Board, questions, comments?
We need to vote to accept.
No,
Or if we accept it, we're not changing anything.
we're not changing anything, so
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
thanks, Jen.
Are we changing early voting because we're not doing in-person early voting? We're just doing mail-in early voting?
I think that's Jen's choice.
Okay.
So the early voting they're allowing, because usually you have to have it for a reason. It's usually for local elections, it's usually absentee voting, but with the early voting by mail, that allows anybody to because of the current pandemic. So yeah, we would do the early voting. It's just the in-person early voting right before the election that I'm not recommending to do.
Yeah. Jen, can I just ask you a question about how people will know how to get those mail ballots? Will we all receive something in the mail and we can request them? I know that's how it kind of worked in November. Or do they need to call town hall? How will people know?
So I already have the absentee ballot application on my section of the website, so they can just get that and fill it out and submit it. They're allowed to, it doesn't have to formally be on that form, but they do have to have something in writing. And something in writing does not mean an email to me. It means they want something with their actual signature on it stating they're requesting a ballot by mail. The one in November, the September and the November elections, those were state elections. That's completely different. Those were mass mailings that went out to everybody. We're not doing mass mailings. It would cost
That's fine.
money.
I wanted you, since you're here, to be able to share that information with people.
Yeah.
So that people know how to get it, and hopefully we can use town social media and things of that nature to continue to spread that word.
Yeah, we can definitely do a press release and the social media on the website, all the usual locations.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the board? Okay. We are at citizen speak time. Richard Stanley.
In listening to that discussion on early voting where you need to send something with an actual signature, it brought to mind a loan document that I've signed today, in fact, over the last year, many times. I don't understand why, if a electronic signature is not binding for commercial transactions, why that couldn't be set up for voting as well.
Jen's already off the line, unfortunately, so I can't even answer that. I wish she had stayed, but she didn't.
Perhaps you could consider it in the way, whenever you look at it.
Yeah, we will ask her. We will ask her.
Okay.
Thanks. Anyone else? Tonight we had 7 panelists and 20 attendees at the height. Select board's announcements or statements. Lee.
Nothing for me.
Kate. Bill.
No, nothing.
Ed. And I have nothing. Media time. Heather Bello. Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Mark about the roundabout. You said it would take 2 construction seasons. Is that, would that be spring, summer, or is that summer, fall? How does that, or is that 2 years? I'm just curious what that means.
At this point, we're expecting 2 years. So this summer, next summer.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else from the media? Okay, seeing no one. Motion to vote and meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A1 for purpose to discuss the discipline, dismissal, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, Great Barrington Housing Authority. Motion and vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A7 to review and approve executive session minutes in compliance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22. And as a chair, I declare under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A1, for the purpose of the executive session will be to discuss the discipline or dismissal or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, Great Barrington Housing Authority, and review and approve executive session minutes in compliance with GL Chapter 38, Section 22. Do I have a motion?
I move that the select board go into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, for the purpose and reasons declared by the chair, and that the board will not return to open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
So I have a motion by Ed, a second by Bill. It's a roll call vote. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Okay.
Ed.
Aye.
And aye, it's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. To repeat, Ed, we will not be returning to open session. So board, give it a few minutes for attendees to clear out.